7 Fascinating Facts About Life as a Medieval Monk. Before we start, I would want you to hit that red subscribe button so that you never miss out on any of our videos. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Insane Worlds. 7. The icon. An important aspect of monastic life was the possession of an icon or holy relic. The icon could be anything that people might revere and flock to see: a piece of the original cross on which Christ was crucified, for example, or the bones of a saint. Or, in the case of the city of Turin in Italy, the shroud worn by Jesus in his tomb. If you were lucky, your monastery's relic would become famous, and Christians from far and wide would embark on a pilgrimage to see it, bringing with them much-needed business for the local area and a massive uptick in donations to your church. 6. SHHHHHH. If a monk found himself suffering from a touch of ennui after joining a monastic order, he wouldn't have been able to pass the time by enjoying good gossip with his new co-workers. Monasteries were places of peace, and as such, most of the duties performed by monks were carried out in complete silence. They weren't even allowed to chat at dinner. Some monks got around the rule of silence by communicating in other ways. Sign language was used during mealtimes when a monk wanted to request food or drink. Some also communicated in secret by whistling. These methods were often taught to the young novices, teenage recruits who were learning the ways of monastic life, and oblates, children who had been entrusted to the care of the monks. In this way, the silent languages were passed down through the generations. 5. Stand, sit, kneel, and repeat. Starting to think life as a monk might have been a tad boring? Well, you're probably right. Luckily, the tedium of charitable acts and perpetual silence was broken up regularly by lengthy and complicated church services. Monks attended a whopping 8 services each day. They woke with the sun, so summer was probably a lot more painful than winter, and took part in various choral services such as Matins, Lauds, and Massachusetts. They also held a daily chapter, which was a formal meeting to discuss monastic business. In all, a monk could expect to participate in a church service for up to 10 hours per day. That's a lot of chanting. 4. More than meat-free Fridays. Medieval life was strictly regulated. England's sumptuary laws dictated behavior in all sorts of areas, and not just for monks. There were laws about which clothes and colors people were allowed to wear based on their social status, for example, and how much eateries were allowed to charge for food. Monasteries were generally very affluent institutions, and for all the drawbacks of monastic life, monks could usually rely on enjoying food regularly and of a high standard. However, by law, medieval folks were bound to observe 3 fasting days per week: Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. They observed many more during times of religious observances, such as Lent. The word fast here doesn't apply in the modern sense. During these specific days, people were only required to abstain from meat and dairy products. Fish and vegetables were fine. Amazingly, some monks missed meat so much during fasting days that they devised a way to beat the system. They recategorized some meat items as fish. There's evidence that beaver tails and rabbit fetuses were eaten during times of fasting. One group of monks in France even started gobbling up the local puffins. 3. The arts. We've got a lot to thank our robe-clad brothers for. Monasteries were incredible places of learning, and monks, as well as their sisters over in the nunneries, spent a great deal of time and effort preserving, copying, and writing books and manuscripts. Thanks to them, many classics by Cicero, Aristotle, and Virgil survive. Free from the constant struggle to find food and with the great advantage of being literate, these men had the time and the tools to create great art. We can still see their imaginative flair in the illuminated manuscripts that survive and the choral music composed during the Middle Ages. In fact, monasteries were often the only places that housed books. Books were very precious and expensive items. 2. Jobs. On top of your daily commitments to church services, learning, and charitable acts, you might also be given a specific area of responsibility in the monastery. The big cheese, of course, was the abbot, and you probably wouldn't be given that job unless you got very, very lucky. The abbot liaised mainly with the outside world and was the face of the institution for the wider community. Next in the chain of command was the prior, who line managed the monks. He appointed a steward, who looked after the monastery's finances, and a cellarer who oversaw food and drink stores. The almoner was responsible for looking after the poor and needy out in the community, and the cantor ran the choir. 1. Stylish attire. When you picture a monk, you probably imagine a man dressed in brown robes, with sandals on his feet and rosary beads in his hand. In fact, robes came in many different colors and depended on which order you belonged to. The Benedictine order wore black and eventually became known as the Black Monks. The Carthusian order wore white. The Capuchin friars in Italy wore brown robes with a long pointed hood. It's from these monks that the word cappuccino is derived. This brings us to the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss any of our videos in the future. Also, watch the 2 videos that are on your screen, because I'm sure you'll love them.